Good morning, David. Good afternoon for me. Good night for Aussies out there. Uh, we're going to follow up on our video from last week where we were talking about how to set up training and all that kind of stuff. There is so much to talk about it, to be honest, just because everyone has completely different goals, everyone has completely different availability, everyone is completely different stage of their life, and so on and so forth. Nevertheless, we'll try to do some justice and talk about nutrition, how to set it up, what matters, when it matters, and the baseline that needs to be understood. You know, everyone is just thinking about calories in, calories out. Very popular thing still. We do know when you focus on food qualities and those calories in, calories out kind of lose the purpose a little bit. Because if you only focus on calories in, calories out, more often than not, it leads to poor food choices and extremely processed stuff. As then it goes back to what you have always kind of highlighted. Hey, you know what? Now you're running out into deuterium issues and all those kind of things. Downstream
Yes.
could be even cancer.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
do you want to open up about matching fuel to your workouts and timing of it all?
Yeah. Yeah. So a couple things to consider, right? Like last time we talked about training and, all the different variations that could happen of like the the timing of training, when it's going to happen. That's going to be all individual, right? But at the beginning, right, of that whole thing, we talked about how you want to set the body up to be good whenever you end up training, right? Whether that's in the afternoon or in the morning or whatever. And that starts with the lifestyle of, hey, just making sure you're getting outside, et cetera, all of those things, right? I'm not going to repeat them. It's in every single video. I'm sure even before the end of this video, I'll end up repeating it. But the concept that there is a schedule, right, for the day, for your body, means that you should also operate and probably will benefit from operating in the manner of you're going to schedule your workout. And most people kind of operate that way by default. They just don't know it, even if they're kind of winging it, right? But today's world of like heavy, tech use, right? Your phone, your laptop, your tablet, etc., everything, right? People have kind of offloaded when they need to do things like it used to be before, right? You would just say to your friend, hey, I'm going to meet you here at this place at this time, and you just did it, right? You just kind of, that was the thing, right? You didn't have to write it down, etc. But in this day and age, basically everything that you ever agree to is usually done over the phone, through email, etc. And so it gets put on a calendar and there's an alarm associated with it, and etc. Your workout should be the same, right? So the reason why I'm going through that effort is because the food thing is going to matter in relationship to when you train. So you want to keep it as static as possible, or at the very least know ahead of time when you're going to do it. Meaning, knowing that today I'm going to work out and it's going to be somewhere in the afternoon or somewhere in the morning, whatever that might be, it doesn't really matter. But knowing that there is something that's going to happen at a given time is very valuable in setting you up properly, right? So, for example, let's make the most people are going to work out in the morning, right? Like that's just kind of a given. Most people want to
Well,
get that
most
out of the
most people
way.
we work with.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, most, and even really most normal people, right? Unless they're working crazy hours, most
Normal
people
people.
are normal people. Yeah, I mean, the average person going to work, they go from 9 to 5, that's pretty common, or 8 to 4 or something like that, right? So in the summertime it's very tempting, and I wouldn't say that it's wrong to, hey, the sun is up at 6 o'clock, I got 3 hours before I even have to be to work, I'm going to do my workout and take care of myself in that way at that time. That's perfectly acceptable. It's even perfectly acceptable in the winter when you don't even have that time. So let's just hypothetically say this person trains in the morning, right? Let's also say that this person is just really kind of starting out, right? They're not super muscular, that they're not necessarily unfit, but they're not, I'm saying they're not obese, they're not somebody that you're having to like train from baseline. They might be strange to the gym as far as like really pushing the intensity, but they've been there, right? They know kind of what to do with the exercises. um, this person wants to work out in the morning or needs to work out in the morning, whatever, then what I would say is the first rule that you cannot break is committing to yourself to spending some level of nervous system neurotransmitter manufacturing. Right. So what that means is I need your brain and your eyes and your skin to coordinate together to process that you are awake and fire everything that it's going to fire for the day. Right. I want you running on 100%, right? That involves making sure that you're well coordinated, that you're well awake, et cetera, all of those things. That for most people happens very slowly, especially if you're waking up before the sun. That, most people have to kind of sit for 20, 30 minutes. They have to kind of get a handle on their body waking up. Their body is not quite awake, right? What is dictating that process? Hormones and neurotransmitters, things like cortisol, things like the conversion of T4 to T3. All of that happens in the morning to coordinate, to wake you up fully so that you can run, jump, think, etc. All of those things. So the first thing that I want to say is you want to get hydrated because you've been dehydrated throughout the night, right? So that can't, if you're going to drink coffee, that's fine. I'm not, I would count the fluid in that coffee towards your hydration, right? But you want to get somewhere north of 20 ounces of water, of fluid in your body in that first, 15 to 20 minutes that you're awake. At the same time, right, you want to, if it's cold outside, if it's the right, if it's the season for cold, then you're going to do that under cold conditions, right? It doesn't mean you need to drink the water outside, but I would drink a bunch of water and take my hot cup of coffee outside, and I would get cold for those 20 minutes. If it's summertime, you're going to get the benefit that it's probably sunny outside, so you're going to go outside and wake fully up. Both of those, whether it's cold or whether it's sunlight, are going to initiate processes in the skin and in the eyes that start to turn on digestion, start to turn on the ability to raise cortisol so that you're feeling active. And that's going to do two things for you. It's going to make it so you can eat some food before you get in the gym if you're going to be training in certain manners, right? So that allows you to prep the body or help the body execute even better the stimulus from the training that you're going to be doing. So let's say, for example, you're preparing for a half a marathon, right? It's your goal to compete in a marathon. You've never done any running before, but you've gotten your way to that you can do a marathon. Let's just hypothetically say that, right? Then the nutrition beforehand, right, before that event, right, because you're going to train in the morning, wouldn't be the same as somebody who's going to go in and trying to grow his shoulders as big as possible. That's not going to remotely be the same stimulus on the body. So the food going into each one of those should be different, right? But the thing that's common to both of those is that I got outside and they fired up the engine, all the neurotransmitters, all of the things that need to coordinate in the body so that whatever they put in their body can be digested quickly and start being used for fuel quickly and kind of set them up for a good training session, irrelevant of what they're going to do, right? Let's hypothetically say this person is just going to go into the gym, right? So what I would say is if this is the only time of day that you're going to be able to actually do some level of training, I would say that you want to do a little bit of cardio that morning before you go into the gym. A little bit meaning 20, 30 minutes, right? 20 minutes being the minimum, 30 minutes being the maximum. It doesn't need to be any more than that, right? And that cardio should be very low impact and not that intense, meaning about 100 to 120 beats per minute is more than enough. You're going to execute it for 20 minutes. This is after you've been hydrated. This is after you've stepped outside. Right. So from start to finish, you've woken up, you've gone to the coffee pot, you've gone to the toilet room, and you've spent 10, 15 minutes outside. That's probably 30 minutes of your day right there. Right. And then you do 20 minutes of a little bit of cardio. That could be a walk to the gym, right? Like depending on exactly how you're set up, you could park a little bit further away from the gym and walk for 20 minutes before the gym or anything like that, right? You basically, your imagination is the only limit. Then you go into the gym, right? Beforehand, right? So whatever you decide to do as far as like where you're going to do your 20 minutes of cardio, if you're going to do it right before the gym, like you're going to walk to the gym as you're going to the gym, then you would eat before. If you're not, I would eat after you've done your 20 minutes. Say you have a piece of equipment at your house, right? So you're just going to get on the piece of equipment there at your house, and then you're going to go to the gym. If you're going to do that, then eat after, right? So you want to basically eat right before you're going to leave, irrelevant of the activity after. That time, if you're going to be training with weights, should be fueled with a little bit of protein, a little bit of amino acids. Something like 20 to 30 grams of protein is enough, right? If you're a bigger person, you're going to need 10, 15 grams more than that, right? But that should be enough, right? That's going to, and you can basically make that substance whatever you want as far as like meat source or eggs or dairy. Like it's not really going to matter too much as long as it doesn't bother your stomach. The one thing I will say, if you're going to the gym because you're trying to lean down, the one thing I would not do is I would not take a protein shake at that point in time. Right. This is very tempting for most people, but I would not do that. The reason for that is that's going to spike your insulin big time because you're in a very insulinogenic state or very sensitive to anything that's going to bring the insulin up because your insulin is very low or should be at the lowest point in the 24-hour period. So you don't want to do that if you're the goal. So again, this is where things start to become personalized. The goal of the weight training, are you getting leaner? Are you trying to get more, a lot bigger? That'll dictate kind of what you're going to eat before, right? If you are definitely trying to get leaner, protein shake beforehand and going to the gym, probably not the best choice. Right. After, it might be totally fine, but before it shouldn't. It should be 20, 30 grams of protein, a little bit of carbs, and that's probably all I would do, right? Something that can digest pretty quickly, and I would focus on just keeping hydration going all the way until you get to the gym. That means just sipping on water with electrolytes. This is very important. You want a high amount of sodium compared to the potassium. So I would say about 20% more sodium than potassium in whatever electrolyte drink you have. That should also consist of about 1,000 milligrams of sodium per 30 ounces of fluid, right? So by the time you've gotten to the gym, you've probably drinking pretty close to 40 to 50 ounces of fluid. You've had some food and you've had plenty of electrolytes. You've had some blood flow. You've had some neurological activity turned on. You've done a lot of things in the first 1 hour of the day to set you up for a really good training session of whatever you're going to do. Right now, you can be a lot more detailed. Like I said, if it's completely different exercises like marathon running, then I would say kind of skip the protein, maybe lower it down a little bit, have a little bit more carbs, that sort of stuff. Right. And you can get even more detailed if you're getting really specific goals. Right. It would be too hard to kind of do it for everything that we can think of. But that gives you an idea of like how you would set up what you eat then. Now, you get done training. What would you want to do after that? More than likely, a couple things. You want to augment the effect from the training, right? So how are you going to augment the effect? You want to get the body in recovery mode as quickly as possible, right? So there's going to be damage from a weight training session that needs to be repaired or at least brought back to homeostasis as far as your sympathetic versus parasympathetic system. That's the first thing that needs to happen. You're dysregulated, you caused a little bit of damage. You want to bring that to equilibrium so then the body can accurately assess what it needs to do and start digesting and rebuilding and all of that type of thing. The quickest way to do something like that is one of two things. A shower, right? Will probably take a shower after the gym. Finish it with some cold exposure, right? That's going to get you back into a little bit more parasympathetic mode. I'm not talking about a long cold shower. I'm just talking just cool the body off, and then move on. Now, the next step is refueling, right? So shift yourself to a little bit of parasympathetic. That's easily done with a little bit of cold at the end of a shower. You have some food after. The food, in this case, right, if it's weight training related, that's when you're going to want something like a protein shake, right? Or egg whites, or protein to digest easily and is not going to upset you in any way, because basically you want to help out the digestive system so that it becomes as efficient as possible at that time so that it can concentrate its efficiency on delivering the nutrients to the places it needs, not on the digestion. And if you ate whole foods first in the first meal, some of those amino acids are already in the bloodstream at the time of your needing recovery. So you're just going to augment it a little bit by eating a little bit more simpler food post training. After that, most of the carbohydrates, especially if it's in the summer, should come in the middle of the day, because that's, in this paradigm of I worked out in the morning, that's recovery time. That is literally all the time that the body is kind of going through all of the energetics of like tearing down any muscle tissue that needs to be repaired, cells, etc., turning them over, getting all that tissue to kind of be put back together that evening when you go to sleep. There's a lot of work being done, is basically what I'm saying. You can fuel that work with all the carbs that you're allowed to eat for the day. Do it during the middle of the day. That also happens to be when you're probably going to be at work, you're going to be thinking and being in meetings. So you want to fuel it easily, right? You want to fuel your brain with plenty of glucose, plenty of electrolytes, and at the same time, you can eat more of them if you get hungry very easily. Those are easy to come by. Those aren't things that you necessarily have to prepare. You can go to any store and get the preheated rice and all of that. It makes it easy if you stick to, I'm going to eat a little bit more carbs in the middle of the day, especially if you're a busy person going from meeting to meeting. Carbs are easy to come by. Even very healthy carbs, if you can say that, are prepackaged, right? Like, so they're easy to keep on the shelf. They're easy to pick really high quality ones, even if you have to eat them prepackaged. So I tend to put everything there. It works out really well for if you've done the previous things, your body's kind of ready for glucose and things of that nature in the middle of the day. Do you have anything to add so far?
Well, just kind of highlight the fact that people don't understand how much protein spikes insulin. Like everything I eat, only time my blood sugar is off charts is when I have protein shake.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I actually have it very rare because it just wipes me out when I have it. You've seen me train and I'm very insulin sensitive. I train for 15 minutes, my body blows up like a balloon. And another thing is that a lot of people overcomplicate hydration in the morning. Add lemon to your water. Add some
Yeah.
green shake or something like that. It doesn't need to be complex. Tell me
No,
about,
I literally just add flavored salt.
yeah.
Flavored salt. Yeah, like I just put normal sea salt, right? Like whatever natural salt that you like, put it in the drink, and then I just flavor it with any flavoring that I want, right? Don't make it too complicated, right? Like it's you're just trying to get electrolytes and water in there, figure out how you can consume them easily, and start doing more of that when you wake up. You will think, if you don't do anything other than that change, you will experience a different, especially if you're somebody who tends to not be hungry in the morning. That also tells me that you tend to underdrink for the first half of the day by
Mm.
a lot. And so so you suffer more brain fog, you suffer more cognitive issues in the morning if that is you. Right. The fact that you tell me, hey, I just don't feel hungry. I'm like, so what do you have in the morning? Well, I have some coffee. I'm like, okay. So you basically rely on the coffee for hydration, and then the coffee blunts your hunger because the caffeine is going to spike, cortisol and things like that. And so you probably don't feel like you're hungry until noon. So what did you drink between there? Well, I forced myself to drink my cup. I'm like, how many ounces is it? They're like 25. I'm like, so you drink 25 ounces in the first half of the day, right? So, and they're like a 200-pound person, right? It doesn't make any sense to only
Yeah.
have that much.
I have 2 liters of water before I even move out of the house. So my
Yeah, yeah.
routine is wake up, get my red light on in the kitchen whilst I'm preparing all the drinks. Then I'll have 4 bottles of water whilst I'm making everything
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
with a routine. And then obviously
Yeah,
go
yeah.
outside, get in the car,
So
window
it is
down.
very powerful to set yourself up. When I say nutrition, water is a big part of that. Water is a big, big part. Electrolytes are a big, big part. It's this day and age, it's an easy way to get those in, right? Like it's not hard. You don't even have to eat food if you just want the electrolytes, right? So we'd live in a place where this plan is very executable. If you really kind of get down to the fine details, you can really compress it and get a lot done in very little time if you kind of set it up like that. So we got to the noon area, right, where it's like that's where you're going to have most of your carbohydrates, and then in the middle, in the evening, what you want to set yourself up is for good protein synthesis and repair over the evening. So that's when it should be a repeat of kind of the morning, but with heavier protein, right? I would say It basically should be a proteins and veggies meal, right? So you want to think of it from a perspective of, okay, I signaled everything correctly. I executed on the task this morning with the workout. My body's gone through processes of preparing for repair. Tonight, it's going to execute the majority of that repair. What is it going to need? It's going to need amino acids. It's going to need vitamins. It's going to need minerals, right? If you cover that with, I'm going to have a protein and a veggie meal and maybe a little bit of fruit on the side if you want, you basically covered all of those vitamins, minerals, amino acids, B vitamins, you name it, right? Like zinc, basically everything that you would need is in that last meal. If you need a lot of food, right, then, carbs can certainly be added in if you need it. I would tend to be like, that's probably the meal where you should conserve, especially if you're, again, the primary goal of this person is, I'm losing weight, right? So the primary goal should be, you should be going to bed with plenty of fuel in the tank, but as little insulinogenic response as you can get away with, right? So that looks like a protein and veggie meal. And then that meal should be ate about 2 hours before going to sleep, because that's when all of that's kind of flooded. We do know this from sleep research. Most of the physical, right, the physical repair processes happen in the first half of the day, or first half of the night, I should say. The neurological and brain like resetting and repairing tends to happen in the second half of the night, right? So you want the amino acids, all these nutrients for like the muscle repair stuff and the tissue repair stuff. You kind of want that preloaded into, almost think of it like sleep. Well, actually, that is the thing, is the next activity for you, right? Sleep is the next activity for you. You want to fuel the repair process of the physical part because you did some physical things earlier in the day to be ready to have all the building blocks right then and there in the first 3 to 4 hours of your sleep, right? The processes after that are significantly less reliant on that food, right? Like you're not repairing your calves at 4 a.m. Right. Those are process. That's actually mostly where most people experience most of their dreams, is in that 3 to 5 a.m. window. The reason for that is that's when neurological things are happening. Right. So that it's way more important to have the food in you earlier in the evening than later in the evening in terms of physical repair. It's by far more beneficial to have the food ate and being digested a couple hours before you plan on being asleep.
So what about nutrients for your brain? Because a lot of people we work with specifically will do a lot of like cognitive tasks and stuff like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. So as far as nutrients, right, that is really going to be only one that's probably like that we didn't cover, like as far as like it's already included in the foods I just said. Well, because B vitamins are important for your brain. There are amino acids that are important for your brain, but that's covered in all these foods, right? The only thing that's not specific to these foods that some people would get away from is omega-3 fatty acids. That is crucial for your brain. Your brain is full of them. So you want to have an inflow of amino acids, but the timing of that we have found is not really that specific. It doesn't actually matter. But what does matter is the consistency of input into the body, meaning it needs to be a regular thing, like weekly and not necessarily monthly, right? If you only ate fish once a month, it's probably not enough omega-3 acids in the background to be incorporated into the cells regularly, right? Because the amino acids need to be present when the body is incorporating new cell membranes. We don't actually know when that's going to be happening because it's going to happen differently for different organ systems, right? So you need it to be consistent as far as like a minimum of like 2 to 3 days out of the week. You have one meal that has some fish in it or some omega-3 fatty acids. And that is enough that there should be kind of residual omega-3s pretty much all week long, consistently every week. So that timing is a little bit different. It's not from day to day. It's more like over the week. Have you had the average of around 12 grams of omega-3s? That's kind of what it comes out to. So somewhere over the course of the week, you need to accumulate 12 grams of omega-3s, ideally split kind of every other day scenario.
It kind of brings it back to highlight this fact that people don't appreciate that what you're doing today will translate on what your body does throughout the week, not just meal to meal basis. because they kind of forget sometimes. I've had this one guy, he was always smoking pot just to get his appetite up. I'm like, yeah, but then you don't eat for next 2 days. What are you talking about? Oh yeah, I never thought about that. I'm like, that's why you're not getting results, because what's happening here? You just don't understand the mechanism behind it.
Yeah, there's a starting and stopping happening too often, right? Like so that's why I laid it out this way. Like just be consistent with when you eat it, because there's a timing thing related to it, right? And that starts when do you work out? Then there's the timing that you have to take into account of what is my body doing next, right? Like, hey, I wouldn't eat this food right before bed because of this timing mechanism I just spoke about. You would eat it a couple hours before bed, right?
Do you have a
Uh,
specific timing for fiber and things like that to keep digestion healthy?
so yes and no. So if you don't actually have a digestion problem, like meaning you don't need excess fiber, right? So I have found some people that have like certain digestive problems or whatever, they need more fiber, right? They need more fiber than just comes in regular vegetables. Not by a lot, but they do need more. I would say you want to take it early in the day rather than later in the day, because the fiber is somehow helping with like regulating the digestive speed of how things are moving through the system. And so because you're going to be eating throughout the day, I tend to supplement fiber if you're going to supplement fiber in the morning. Now, if you're not having to supplement fiber, I don't actually think that there is a good data on fiber helping the microbiome. Basically the data suggests that it only really helps for like some species of the microbiome and not
Mm.
all of them as a blanket statement, right? So you might be somebody who has the microbiome where you can get away with significantly less fiber than other people. This is what goes back to our digestive. We've done a whole episode on digestion and the scale, right? I think the scale goes from like 1 to 10 as far as your excrement. So as long as you're meeting a Bristol scale, that's what it's called, of a 4 or a 5, meaning it's solid crap and you're not constipated and you don't have diarrhea. If that is happening and you don't know how much fiber you're currently eating, you should probably look, because whatever that is, that's probably the right amount for you, right?
And
And
as uncomfortable as it is, it's kind of overlooked lately because of the peptide introduction as well, like semaglutide, Ozempic, and all that kind of stuff.
yeah,
And people end up blocked up.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, like so that's maybe another thing that I don't really talk about. You should probably inspect your crap if you're having problems. That's probably actually a good place to start, right? Because it starts to tell you a little. So, for example, if you're getting a lot of diarrhea, there's a good chance there's probably a serotonin problem going on, right? Whether you're probably making too much serotonin, and so that means that as long as you're not going to, in order not to have issues at the brain level, you want to make sure you're making plenty of dopamine at that time when you're having that type of a problem. What does that mean? Stronger UV light. So maybe, you think back to yourself, oh, I'm having, diarrhea or really loose stool. Am I not getting enough sunlight? Now that's a way that you could just kind of troubleshoot of, oh, I'm not actually getting a lot of middle of the day sunlight. You start getting a little bit more, the diarrhea will change to more solid poop. That is a known thing that you can offset by, because a lot of people don't understand, neurotransmitters are created in the gut, right? Dopamine, serotonin, all of those are created in the gut by the microbiome and then transported through the brain gut axis to the brain when needed and all of that type of thing. Most of these are actually activating their own neurotransmitters everywhere else that's not in the brain. For example, the calves have a lot of dopamine receptors. Your gut is making dopamine. A lot of that dopamine is going to these passive receptors that, keep you standing upright without you having to think. That sort of stuff. So that's where proper lifestyle of like getting exposure at the right times of the day will help benefit that, right? This again still is on topic. Say, for example, this person is a track and field athlete, right? So they need a lot of lower body coordination and development and explosiveness, all of the things related with that. There would be a lifestyle slash food related paradigm that you would want to exploit there. For example, they would always want to be with their legs uncovered. They want to get as much dopamine activation in the calves and in the lower leg as possible. That means get as much sunlight on them as possible, get as much cold on them as possible, and you would want to be consuming foods in high amounts of tyrosine. You would probably also want to make sure that the copper content of the food is nice and high. So seafood kind of fits that really well. The reason for that is copper is the limiting mechanism for melanin production, right? And melanin enhances dopamine creation and can even be broken down into dopamine and vice versa, depending on factors of like glutathione, like stress, basically. If you're under a lot of stress, you're much easily to convert melanin to dopamine than melanin to other byproducts.
Yeah, it's a lot of like little details and kind of why we lean into food quality over just protein, fats, and whatnot.
Yeah, because when you really know what you're trying to accomplish, right, you can do these types of things. Like, for example, this track and field athlete doesn't know about dopamine in their calves and doesn't know about how melanin augments that. They wouldn't be thinking along the lines that I just spoke. The food choices would be much more broad and probably not as specific. And so they wouldn't even exploit that pathway as much as they could. Whereas if they knew this information, you can quickly start to think, oh, okay, I'm going to choose foods that have plenty of tyrosine in it. I'm going to choose foods that have plenty of copper in it. I'm going to get as much sunlight as I can on my calves. And then lo and behold, you start to get that 1 or 2 or 3% more out of your training by setting up nutrition in this way of thinking about what am I actually trying to exploit, right? Explosiveness and coordination in my lower leg. What does that involve, right? And you start getting into the details of neurotransmitters and things of that nature. That's the type of detail you can really get down to with nutrition paired with the right training, paired for the right goal, right? But it all starts with setting the right goal and not deviating from that primary outcome.
When you pair it with electrolytes, and a lot of people are still afraid of sodium and all those kind of things, does timing of that matter, and how does it relates to different outcome, let's say muscle gain and weight loss?
So it'll help both of those. Having it plenty of electrolytes in the body is going to help both of those. Now, salt, I want to say that the Heart Association redacted the sodium thing, but people aren't, doctors aren't really on the know thing. So if you don't know, I'm pretty sure that the Heart Association or one of the medical associations has actually come out and said that we don't think that salt has anything to do with heart problems or anything like that, right? So they didn't tell you that it's good for you, but they said, we're saying it's not harmful. I'm here to tell you that you pretty much can't get enough salt. Like there's almost no way that you can't get enough salt, especially if you're drinking the appropriate amount of fluids for you. If you're under drinking and you have a bunch of salt, what'll happen is you'll get swollen, right? You'll retain a bunch of water. That just gives you feedback of, oh, I need to drink more water with that level of salt intake. So there are instances where salt looks like a negative, but it's not the salt's fault that you drank too little of water that day. Does that make sense? So as far as electrolytes, the timing and everything, you want to start early in the day, right? Because you're going to get up and urinate and you're going to get rid of ions before you even move, right? Basically, before you even started your day, before you even sweated. So you want to start replenishing those early in the day rather than later in the day. I tend to also sip on electrolytes and water while I work out. Nothing else. Like I don't have a protein shake or anything. I have water with electrolytes in it, and I tend to sip on it throughout the workout. That way I'm still hydrating myself. And then when I get done, instead of drinking a protein shake or anything like that, I just finish my drink, right? Like I start with, 24 ounces. By the time I get done, if there's still 12 ounces in it, then I drink the rest of that. And that's loaded with, I usually put a double amount of sodium in it. So by the end of the day, right, if you're around 100 kilos, you should be consuming about 6 grams of extra sodium. That's not the sodium that you salt your food with. That's sodium that you drank, right? It's electrolytes that you intentionally added to your fluids to drink. Because most people, I find, if they're eating whole foods and salting their food appropriately, they get about 3 grams of sodium through that method. And so you add the 3 and the 6, and you got about 9, right? You're trying to get pretty close to, or not trying to get, but most people end up, if they're training hard and they're about 100 kilos, they end up at about 10 grams or close to it for the day. That's where they kind of run optimally. They don't have cramps randomly and things of that nature. And they perform well. And then you can kind of do the math backwards, right? If you're only 50 kilo female, then you probably need about, I don't know, 3 grams of supplemented liquid sodium and ions, and you're probably going to put 2 grams on your food if you salt your food.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense that, and again, bodybuilders do it all the time anyway, but it's kind of overlooked because it has negative connotation with blood
Yeah,
pressure and
yeah,
whatnot. But blood pressure issues comes from lack of activity.
yeah. Lack of activity, lack of proper hydration, overstimulation of the parasympathetic. It comes with a. There is way more things that cause that than just the sodium, right? So that's kind of a thing that shouldn't really be taught. It's not a thing, right? Let's just say it that way. So sodium and ions are pretty easy, like I said, especially with this day and age of flavored sodium and stuff like that. You can easily even look right at the label and be like, oh yeah, okay, I need 3 scoops throughout the day, and measure it out there's a lot of ways that this shouldn't be a thing that's missed, is what I'm getting at. You shouldn't be having problems with workouts and with brain fog being caused because you don't get enough electrolytes. That is more of, you've ignored it and you're not doing it, or you just didn't know, right? And that's the purpose of this video. Now,
So what are the common mistakes that you see the most? To me, that I see is just lack of preparation.
yeah, yeah, it pretty much always comes down to that. Either they don't know what to prepare, kind of like this whole sodium thing. They just didn't know that they needed that much sodium, or they feel like they can just, I don't know what the right word to say it, but it would be like they're just going to wing it, right? Oh, I'm just going to do it as I go, right? That never happens. That doesn't, that's not a thing. I can't even really get away with that.
Yeah, it's yeah, I'll just grab this, I'll grab that, and it never ends up well. 700 calorie drink later, you're like, oops,
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
was
yeah.
supposed to eat chicken breast and I'm drinking this Starbucks chocolate milkshake.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's one of those things where if you're going to get things on the go and you're going to leave it as a thing that just happens to you, that's exactly what it's going to be. Things will happen to you, and you won't be the dictator of what you put in your mouth, or at least not to any measurable degree that's going to be helpful.
Yeah, I think it's been very useful to kind of break it down that there are really simple things to focus on. Hydration being number one. There are like studies even showing that muscle protein synthesis is much lower if you're not hydrated. So
Hmm.
why would you skip that part and then trying to get some extra chicken breast in when you could have just drunk a glass of water? So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
simple things like that, and obviously
Yeah,
there's
and,
a
and
limited
not only
number.
that, the stimulus will be able to be better, right? So meaning, at the end of the day, right, muscles don't measure weights, right? Like they don't care, they don't know that it's 70 kilos versus 100 kilos of whatever you're doing. What matters is the innervation of the muscle, aka how hard were you able to contract it and get that contraction to last and really cause the things that you want the muscle to do. That's completely dependent on electrical signaling, and electrical signaling is completely dependent on electrolytes. It's a very, very basic thing that people that are just starting out don't even really know or haven't been explained how crucial this part is. They get told, yeah, drink your water, you want to have your electrolytes, but that's kind of how the conversation ends. That it starts and ends right there in that sentence, where the details matter. As like I said, you want to be aiming for this much. You want to start early in the day. You want to start it with a big glass of room temperature water with electrolytes in it so that you can absorb it quickly and easily. There's nothing stopping it, right? There's nothing in your stomach because you've been asleep all day, all night. So there's a lot of benefits to starting it early, right? A big glass of water with electrolytes in the morning is going to do you more good than pretty much any food you could have chosen, in terms of just feeling good and not and waking up fully for the day.
Awesome, David. Appreciate your time as usual, and we're gonna dig deeper on all things related to how to be better in every way possible, essentially,
Awesome.
the next videos. Thank you.
Thank you.